There's a very serious problem going on right now, and it's getting worse every day for homeowners as banks are taking houses back through foreclosure at a crazy rate right now. And I know this sounds scary if you're in this very situation, but I want to break it down so you know what's happening, why it's happening, and what you can do about it if you or someone you know is in this very situation. And I'm going to also share a story about some clients of mine that almost walked away from over $300,000 in equity because they didn't know what to do. So, why are we seeing foreclosures pick up right now? Well, a few things are happening all at once. And let's rewind things a little bit. Remember back during the COVID period, the government actually put a moratorium on foreclosures. And this meant that the banks legally could not take those homes back, even if people weren't paying their mortgages. And let's be real, there were a lot of people that actually fell behind, whether it was due to a job loss, illness, or other financial struggles. During this period, a thing called a forbearance came into play. And if you were in forbearance, you didn't have to pay your mortgage for months, maybe even a year. But here's the catch, that money didn't just disappear. And depending on the lender, some people had to pay all those missed payments back at once when the forbearance ended. Others got them tacked on to the end of the loan, and some had that past due amount added to their monthly payments for a period of time to make up for that amount. And for a lot of people, that big lump sum, either due at once or that monthly payment, yeah, it was just unmanageable for people. And unfortunately, the servicers did not convey this to people properly, as even myself, where I owned a mortgage bank back in the day, I called just to hear what the servicers said at the time, and I can vouch that they weren't very clear on this, so many people did not know how these forbearances actually worked. Now let's fast forward to today. Those foreclosures that were put on pause are now happening as we speak. Banks, they're finally able to move forward on that backlog of homes that they've been sitting on. And it's all hitting the market now. And in fact, lenders started the foreclosure process on 253,306 properties in 2024. Now, that was 6% less than in 2023, but the figure for 2024 was up 74% from 2021, according to a report from Adam.com. So let's say someone gets that dreaded foreclosure notice. What now? First off, you typically have a few months to a year, depending on which state you live in. And even after the property is sold, some states will give you what's called a redemption period to make whole on that amount and actually get to keep your home. Now, that means there is still a lot of time to do something, but do not, and I mean do not just put your head in the sand. Now, a lot of people, they don't realize this, but you can stop a foreclosure. And what's the easiest way to do this? Well, selling the house. Now, I get it. Nobody wants to be forced to sell, but just hear me out. This can actually save your credit in the long run. And you also can walk away with money in your pocket. And here's a real example of this. My clients contacted me within the last year. They had been in and out of foreclosure the last few years, so it shows you how long this process can take. But they literally had 1 week to sell their home before it went to the sale, as it was at the end of the road. And thankfully, they had reached out to me because previously they were going to sell that home to an investor or they were just going to walk away from it. And after a few days of going back and forth with the lender, we were able to get their home on the market and get them $325,000 in their pocket after that home sold. So luckily they had reached out. And hey, let's face it, when you're in this kind of situation, there's many of you out there that just don't know what to do, and everybody feels the same way. So just take note of this story and reach out if you're in this situation. Now, another way that you can avoid foreclosure is do what's called a short sale. And what that means, if you owe more than your house is worth, a short sale, that might be your best option. Now, this is where the bank will agree to take less than what's owed to avoid going through that foreclosure process themselves. And the banks, they don't want to foreclose on a home anyway. I know everybody thinks that they do, but they would just rather get that home sold and move on, trust me. And the good news, a short sale does way less damage to your credit than a foreclosure. And if you get foreclosed on, it could be 5 to 7 years before you can buy a home again. But if you sell even on a short sale, you could be back in the game a lot sooner. If you or someone you know is in this type of situation, you need to get a real estate agent who knows how to deal with short sales. And if you need to find a good agent out in your area, my contact links down below, reach out to me anytime. And not all agents know how short sales work, so just be careful. Make sure you find one who understands the process and how to negotiate with the bank, as this can buy you some extra time and give you a shot at walking away without a foreclosure on your record. Now, here's another reason why people are ending up in foreclosure: an adjustable rate mortgage. And as crazy as it sounds for all the low interest rates that we've had, you would be surprised how many people are still in those old school adjustable rate mortgages. And for years, while interest rates were crazy low, people that were locked in to, say, even these super low monthly payments, thinking they'd last forever. But when the rates doubled practically overnight, a lot of people were hit with these adjustable rate mortgages as they saw their payments jump to something they just could not afford. And if you're in that boat, right now your best bet is to try to refinance if you can. And if not, selling might be your best option before things get worse. Also, we need to be real here. Most people buy homes based on two incomes, but there are a lot of things in life that happen. For instance, there's divorce, you have a job loss, medical emergencies, even death, and suddenly that mortgage is too much for one person to handle. This is why I always tell people to run your numbers and even run it on what you can afford on one income, not just factoring in two, just to get a worst case scenario. Because if something happens, you just don't want to be scrambling around trying to figure this out after the fact. So what if you're behind or struggling? What can you do right now? First of all, prioritize your mortgage. I know it's always tempting to pay off your credit cards first because they're calling you 24/7. I get it. Also, I've seen it back in the days where people would rather pay their car payments, but trust me, your house matters more. And cut those unnecessary expenses if you can. Sell things you don't need. Even take on extra work if it's possible, as every dollar obviously helps. But the one thing you should do is always call your lender, as some of these banks, they'll work with you if you're upfront and you communicate early. Early's the key. Don't wait like my clients did in my previous story until it's way too late. And look, nobody wants to lose their home, but if it's heading that way, there are things you can do to minimize the damage. Whether it's selling before the foreclosure hits, negotiating a short sale, or restructuring your payments, take action now and do not just ignore it. Don't put your head in the sand. Reach out to a real estate agent that has experience with all this. And again, if you need that, my contact link is down below. I hope you found this video helpful. And if you did, please share it with someone else who may need to hear all of this, because you'd be surprised how many people around you are in this type of situation and they don't want to tell anybody. And of course, always reach out to me anytime if you need a connection to a good realtor, like I said. And again, thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.